Okay, so today we're going to make this part right here called the head end bearing. It's kind of like a traditional sort of housing style shape. So I'm going to move that over to another screen and bring my Creo up. All right, so first I'm going to set my directory. Too many screens, I got stuff all over the place. So my directory, do I have one for this? I do, look at that. Okay, I'm going to start a new part. And for this part, I had some requirements for what the number was going to be. This one's going to be 41560-04. I'm going to hit OK. Turn my planes on. Now, the interesting thing with this piece is that how I approach it is very important. So I can approach this in a very difficult way. I can approach it in a very easy way. Obviously, you're not going to intentionally do something the hard way. But taking some time to think about this a little bit is going to help us out in the long run. So when I look at this, I see a nice section here of a round shape. That gives me a clue I'm probably going to need a revolve. And then I also have an extrusion down here. Now, how I make this is really up to me. But if I'm looking at this, I think I could do it a couple different ways. I could make a revolve. I could extrude back and then cut down. I could make an extrusion and then a revolve. I don't usually like to do that. This is kind of the core right here of what it is. Or I could make a revolve. I can extrude just the bottom back, and then I could connect this right here with a nice little extrusion at the front. I think that's probably going to be the approach I'm going to take. But we'll see how it goes as I get into this. So I'm going to zoom in on my other screen so I can see all my dimensions. Okay, so my first thing is going to be a revolve, like I said. And I can go to placement and all that, or I can just pick my right plane. Okay, and then rotate it. And then I'm going to make my sketch. Now, usually if I have a flange like that, what I like to do is I'm going to put my center line in. And then what I like to do is create the front of the flange sort of on my front plane. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go a line that goes over, then down, then over, and then down again, then back over, and then I've got a little counterbore in here, so I'll put it in the same sketch. Back over and up. And because I put that center line in, now I have some nice diameter dimensions. Now I'm going to scale them all down. Definitely don't want that one. I want that one, but I'm going to scale them all down. Draw a big box around them. Hold right click. Go to modify. And then on my modify command, I'm going to lock the scale. I'm going to change one of them to be the right number. So this one on the top is highlighting this one. And the dimension of that is, looks like 2 7/16, 2.438. And I'll hit OK, hit my refit, zoom right in. All right, then my counterbore. This is interesting. It gave me the wrong size. I think it might have. Yes, it definitely did. Right. Oh, it's giving me a radius. That's why. All right, so this is actually supposed to be times 2. All right, so it's supposed to be 4.875. I don't know that I would have given a radius there, but I didn't make that original drawing. All right, now our counterbore is 2 17/32. That one I don't know off the top of my head. 17/32, 0.531. Oh, I should know that one. This is going to be 2.531. And then I have a couple other dimensions. Usually with a flange, I want to dimension the thickness of the flange. And then usually I'll dimension like the full length from here over to here. All right, and then I'll also want the depth of my counterbore as well. All right, so my counterbore depth is 0.438. My depth of my flange is 0.625. My overall is 4 1/4. This diameter here is, probably should have looked at this before I started making this, 2.75. And on the inside, what do we have? Let's take a look. So on the inside, we have a ream dimension of 1.626 to 625. 1.625, I'll put my limit in later. All right, now I'm just going to organize these a little bit just so I can see them better when I bring them into my drawing. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit the check box. I'm going to rotate that right around like that. And I'm going to say OK by just middle clicking. Now I've got to make my extrusion, which will certainly be challenging. So here's how I would make the extrusion. I'm going to go extrude. I'm going to define my sketch, and my sketch is going to be on this front plane over here. I'll sketch right on there. Now this extrusion needs a few different things. It's going to bring down a tangent line here and then over. So I'm going to add a few references. My references are going to be here and here. All right, I clicked references up here if you're having trouble finding it. And then I can take my lines, if hopefully it gives me the right numbers. It does. Okay, so I'm going to take my lines. I'm going to start here. I'm going to come down, then over, and down. And I could make this all symmetric too, which I probably will afterwards. Up, over, and back up, tangent to that. All right, and then what I'm going to do is create a circle right here, and then delete segment. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'll fix that in 1 second. So this is going to be vertical. This, let's see, looks like it goes right up 4 7/8. Yeah, so it actually lines right up with this one. So I could say these are tangent. Okay, and the other thing I can do is, since this is symmetric, I can put a center line right down the middle, and I can put some symmetric constraints in. So I'll go symmetric. This point is symmetric across the center line of that. So click, click, click. All right, everything else is going to be symmetric anyways because these are vertical lines. These points can't move, and they're tangent here. Okay, and then actually, I have one other one. I could actually go symmetric, or I can make both of these equal. I go symmetric from this point to here, to this point. All right, so now I'm just going to get one thickness for both. Now that thickness of the bottom is 0.75. And the dimension I have is going to go from the center down to the bottom here, like that. And that is 2.625. I can say OK. I can extrude it back, and this is going to extrude back 4 inches. It's going to give me that little bit that sticks out right there. Now, like I said earlier, I could have made this whole thing come back, but I'm just going to add some sketches in here to fill this in. So I'm going to go extrude. I'll show you a nice way to do this. On this plane, add some references in. Here, 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 boom. Okay, now all I have to do, create a circle. I could also convert the edge, but a lot of times we lose references that way. Create a circle, and then create a couple sets of lines that come down like this, and come down like this. Now I can do some trimming, get rid of that with sound effects. When I middle click, there's my pieces. I don't have any dimensions because I'm using all references, which is the way to do that. And I'm going to hit the checkbox. I'm going to flip the direction. But now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to go up to a certain surface. And I'm going to pick this back surface so that it goes right to that surface. Now here's the advantage of that. After I hit the checkbox, everything's all nice, right? But if I was to edit my first feature and say this flange was 3/4 of an inch now, look what happens. That feature moves back as well because it's referencing that back surface. If I put a dimension in of 5/8, well, now it would be short, right? So I'll put that back. All right, so that's the advantage of that. I want to minimize dimensions wherever I can. In any of my videos, it's always something I'm going to talk about because it's an important thing for people to learn. So now I have my extrusion, I've got my counter bore, and I'm missing a couple different things. I'm missing an oil groove, a couple bolt patterns, and some rounds, and it looks like a keyway at the bottom as well. So I'm looking at this, and I could certainly minimize features. So I could put this cutout in when I put this oil groove in. It's not a bad idea. I don't know that those are really associated with each other. Sorry for the bell. But I'm going to do it either way. So let's go with an extrude. I'm going to come over to the front again. I'm going to click on the front. And then for my references, so hold right click, click references. My references, I have a groove that goes down here, and I have another groove right down here. I'm going to hit close. So now for both of these are both symmetric grooves. So I'm going to put a center line across here for my first groove, and then I'm going to take a rectangle. I'm going to make it just go right down like that. Okay, and now I can control this where this is going to be 0.125, or sorry, that's going to be 1/16, 0.0625 deep, 0.125 tall. There's my first groove. It looks a little glitched out just because of that, but those points are actually on that circle, so it's going to be okay. You can see the reference circle. That's just my graphics accuracy. And the other one, I'm going to put a center line down here. And I'm going to put a rectangle right across here. Make them symmetric. You see that little symmetric constraint pop up. And this one's going to be 0.5 by 1/4. So now I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to flip the direction. I'm going to make them a cut right up here, remove material, and then I'm going to make it go through all so I don't have any depth dimension. Those are going to cut all the way back, all the way through forever. Alright, so there's another one of my features. Now I've got an oil hole I need. So this hole is back here on this surface. It goes back to this surface. So I'm going to drag, what I did was I dragged my reference. Move my reference. Here's my reference. I drag this back to highlight the back surface. I let go, and it highlights to there. And the other one I need is, since it's on a circle, it can be on a whole different angles here. So I'm going to pick this one here because I'm going to actually align it with a 0-degree angle. So if I go to placement now, I can change my angle to 0. And this dimension here is going to be 1.75. The hole itself is only 1/4 inch, so it's a little tiny, oil fill hole. All right, we can see it goes right through there. And then for my depth, I'm going to go drill up to next surface, which is going to drill through, and then once it breaks through into nothingness here, it's going to stop. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Put some oil in there, and it would go right down the grooves as whatever's spinning inside. So I'm going to say OK. There's one of my holes. Then we'll put our bolt pattern on the front. So we have 3 holes in our bolt pattern. They're 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go hole. I'm going to put it right here. I'll show you a couple different ways to do this. But I'm going to put it right on that surface. I'm going to then drag this to the axis because I want to set up diametral pattern. So I'm going to go under placement, and I'm going to switch it from linear to diameter. Then I'm going to grab my other reference line, and I'm going to pick one of the planes. Okay, now there's a couple ways I can do this. I'm going to need a hole here, I'm going to need a hole here, and I'm going to need a hole here. Okay, so one thing I could do is I could align it to this plane, and I could say, okay, pattern 2, 90 degrees. So go 90, 90. Okay, or I'll show you another way that's kind of handy, depending on if you need to turn holes on and off, is we can do this. So I'm going to line it up with this plane. I'm going to say the angle is 0. The diameter that those are on is, bear with me for a moment, is 4. And then I'm going to say that these go through. Okay, and this hole is 0.375, 3/8. Then I'm going to say okay. All right, so there's my hole. Now I'm going to right click it and pattern it. And I'm going to say normally I would have 4 holes, right? I'd have one down here. Looks like my key probably does some of that work. I'm going to pick axis. I'm going to pick my axis. And I'm going to flip this where it spreads 4 around 360 degrees. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then one of the handy things they added in Creo is on axis patterns, I can actually go in, I can click this and turn it off. So now when I hit the checkbox, it only creates them in those 3 spots. Either way works. Honestly, the reason I like this way is just because then I don't get that 90 dimension. But that would be okay too. Okay, so just to give the difference there, let me edit the hole. I'm going to move it over so you can see what I meant. Nope, still want it on there. I'll remove this. Drag it over here. 0 degrees. Same sort of thing. Checkbox. Now it's got rid of that one. So in my pattern instead, why don't I just do a dimension pattern? Oop. I mean the repattern. I want to edit the pattern. Alright, so I could pick a dimension pattern or an axis pattern. Alright, I could flip it to the 90 and I could say I just want 3 of them. Alright, we'll just go boop boop. Turn that one back on. Same thing. There's really no difference. Okay, so then I have a couple other holes here. I have a bolt pattern down here. It looks like how we bolt this thing down. So I'm going to go hole right here. And I have a couple different references. So I can drag these around like I have been, or I'll give you another way. I can click and offset references. I can hold control and say from here, there's one of my references. And the other one I would imagine, if this is dimensioned properly, is across the middle. Alright, which is good. So I'm going to pick that right there. Alright, so the overall width of these is 3.875. I'm going to divide that by 2 because I've just got half. This distance here is 1.375. Now I've got to set up my hole here. So I'm going to say standard hole profile. Very important. Then I can turn on a counter bore. And then I can go into my shape and make this the right size. So this is, the hole itself is 17/32. The counter bore is 0.75. It's actually a spot face. It's a shallow one. And it is 1/16 deep. And otherwise, it's going to go all the way through. Okay, so that's what it looks like right there. So I'm going to hit the check box. And now I can do a nice traditional dimensional pattern. So I'm going to right click dimension. And I have a couple different dimensions I'm going to use. So for my first one, I'm going to pick this. And my number is going to be 1.875 for my increment. Or if you click it accidentally, and it goes away, you can go under here and change it right there. Then for my second dimension, I need to do this one, and I actually have to go a negative direction. So I have to overcome this and then go another one. So I'm going to go negative 3.875, and that's going to move it over to the other side. And I can see where my holes are going in. If I go to the top, I can see them as well. And now I can hit the checkbox. All right, so now I've got all of my holes in, cutouts, good, good, yeah. So all I have left are radii. Fillets and rounds are 1/8 of an inch, it says. Okay, so round, 0.125. And let's see if there's any advantage to doing it any certain way. All right, so for me, if I wanted this thing to go where I can kind of pick one edge and it'll loop all the way around, I'm going to go here. I'm going to hold control. I'm going to pick here. I'm going to hold control and pick here and here. Do I want to pick there yet? I don't know if I do. Yeah, there's not really an advantage to doing it any certain way. So let's try and minimize picks here. Let's go there. So I've got to loop all the way around this. I've got to go under here to put that in. And then, is there an advantage to anything else? My front isn't rounded. I can do that one yet. Suppose I could. Yeah, why don't we do what I was going to do? All right, so we'll go there and there. Now we'll hit OK. Then we'll put another round in, and now that those rounds are there, this should go a lot quicker. So 0.125, I'm going to hold control here, and here, and that's everything. So I just had 2 clicks because of those. All right, and I'll turn my shading off just so you can see what it looks like. Well, that's what this thing should look like when you're done. All right. That's how we make that piece. Looks a lot more complex than it actually is. I'm going to save it. And that's how you do it.